Across the board.
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 You're listening to Across the Board. Buckle up, because things are about to get interesting.
What were we talking about today?
Luxury brands.
Luxury brands. Okay. So I actually don't mind the cup.
Just water.
Yeah, just water. Spicy water. So I know I told you this before, but like, remember I was telling you that there was like this show on Discovery or TLC, one of those, really, really long time ago. They tested people's psyche, right? So they took the same boxed wine, like that bullshit, like Franzia, whatever the fuck, like, you know, like the refrigerated box wine that comes in a bladder. So they took that wine and they poured it into 2 bottles. One bottle, they put this fancy chateau blah 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 label on it. I know, I try to get too fancy. So they put a fancy like chateau whatever label on it.
Okay.
The other one, they put like a very basic looking, like almost like a, I don't know, like a 7-Eleven.
Something simple,
like colorful, like just cheap looking wine. Mm-hmm. So they started with the cheap wine, and they took a group of people. I don't remember how many it was, but and they recorded this. So like you see their actual reaction. So they took this like cheap wine and they fed it to people, and you know, obviously they sat the bottle down. They're like, hey, we want you to try this wine. Give us your honest opinion. And everybody was like, oh, it's really bitter. Oh, it's too sweet. Oh, it's like, it's just complaints.
It was like negative.
It was always negative.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, this tastes like a cheap wine. Then they brought out the Chateau blah, blah, blah wine, right? And the same people sat them down with the Chateau whatever, and they poured each one of these people a glass of wine. Mm-hmm. These same exact people who just seconds ago for the same exact wine said it was disgusting were all of a sudden like, oh, this is great. Oh, this has so much depth and flavor. And the one guy's like, this.
Did they know the price of it?
Well, no, they didn't know the price, but it was just a perception of what, you know, it's like the labels basically were kind of like hinting that, hey, this might be a cheaper wine or this might be a more expensive wine.
So visually they were
visually they had a price reference, right?
Gotcha.
One of the guys went as far as to be like, this might be the best wine I've ever had in my life. Right? So it was just their perception of luxury tricked their brains into thinking this wine was tasting better or worse
than what they previously tested, which was exactly the same thing.
Literally the exact same thing. So more than luxury brands, I think this should be more about the perception and the illusion of luxury. Mm-hmm. So my personal belief, and you know me, I think personally that you can't have you can't make a product that much better to justify the outrageous prices, right? So like, for example, you can take an Hermes Birkin.
Yeah.
What do they go for? 30, 40,000?
Starting 30, 40 grand. Depending on
special edition one.
The leather and the quality and what it's made of.
So now,
and you also have to wait.
Isn't it like you have
there's
to be
like a waiting period? You have to be invited.
Yeah, so that's fucking nuts.
So it's like a whole process.
So, but look at it this way: that the leather and the craftsmanship of that bag, you reach a point of diminishing returns, right? So like you buy a certain type of leather, and then you want to bake a better bag. You're going to buy a better leather. Mm-hmm. But then it gets to a point where you just can't buy better leather. Like you're at the best leather that you can possibly get. So now you've set your mark. Okay, this is the best leather. It's going to cost us $500 in material for this bag. Mm-hmm. Well, craftsmanship, and I'm sure you know this, it's like you can teach a completely unskilled laborer to make something if you spend enough time teaching them. Like it's not like somebody has to go to school to learn how to stitch. Like they could be taught this.
Yes.
You know? Like literally in the factory, they could be taught how to do the stitching. So there's also a point where it's like, okay, well, we're not going to be paying. Hermes is not paying the people that are putting these bags together. They're not paying them thousands of dollars.
Of course not. They're pocketing the rest.
They're pocketing the profits. They're going to pay them, more than other leather artisans, right? Maybe they're going to pay them, $60 an hour.
I mean, I highly doubt that anyway, but they might, considering how expensive their bags are or their products.
Well, and the people that are working for them know how expensive these things are, so I'm sure they demand a premium. But they're not going to charge. I mean, they're not going to pay them more than at most $100 an hour. At most.
You think they would pay them that much?
I don't. I think they probably pay them like 25.
Yeah, that's a.
I don't know. But my point is like, so you put all these costs together, and now you're, let's say, with packaging, with everything that it took to make this purse, this, hardware, whether you have zippers or chains or links, buttons, whatever it is. Maybe $2,000. Maybe. And that's stretching it.
Also, how would you figure that out when it's something like, because they use a lot of crocodile, for example, or alligator. I don't know which one, but
yeah,
those go for a hefty amount. How do you think about, what do you think about the pricing for those? Well, considering they had to kill an animal to make that purse. I mean, granted, it's leather, so you have to kill a bunch of animals to make these purses, yes. But they're charging a prettier penny for that one. So
here's the funny thing, especially when it comes to, and this is a whole different topic, but hold on. Let me finish my thought really quick. So your $1,500 to $2,000 purse that they manufactured, they created this, like you said, you have to be on a waiting period. You have to wait to get called. You have to be invited. All these things mean that they've created this illusion of luxury.
Absolutely. That is, like you said, waiting on the wait list and waiting in line to go into the store still.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. And charging an obscene amount of money for these products, whatever it is, whether purses, wallets, apparel, whatever it is, those blankets that people have in their homes.
Yeah.
Like I can personally, like I wouldn't spend money on that, but to each their own. I could go to a different store and buy a blanket for like $20-$25 and I'd be happy with it, but yeah.
So imagine their markup that they've created with this illusion of luxury,
and that's why they have so much money.
But okay, so you're saying alligator or crocodile or whatever it is. Well, the funny thing is like things like alligator skins are actually extremely easy to come by. Like in Florida, they kill crocodiles all day long because they're infested with them.
Okay.
So it's not like it's not fucking brontosaurus skin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like something that's hard to get.
Yeah.
Alligators are everywhere. Obviously, it might be harder to process the skin to make it leather, to make it a usable leather good. But let's say it costs them an extra $100 or $200 in material. They've marked it up like $8,000.
Yeah, I've always wondered why that was so much more expensive than the other leather
because
goods
it's the illusion. It's the illusion of luxury.
Yeah.
Because if you go to any luxury brand, right, and you take, for example, take any of them, Louis Vuitton, Ferragamo, fucking Gucci, any of them. You walk into their store and they'll probably have, let's say, 20 purses, maybe 50 purses, maybe 30 wallets. Out of those, though, they might have one or two that are alligator. They might have one that's ostrich. It's not that these are rare animals, that they're, like endangered species that you're getting the skins off of. All it is that you're creating this illusion that it's more limited, that it's more expensive. Although it's not. It's the same shit.
The same thing goes for when you have to go to, when you go to one of these stores and you have to wait in line to get in there, or you have to make an appointment to speak to a sales rep or something.
Which is also mind-boggling to me. It's like you're asking me to spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 on whatever it is, right? Or you're asking me to spend $1,000 on a pair of shoes, $5,000 on a handbag, $800 on a wallet. Well, why are you acting like you're so exclusive where I have to beg you to let me spend that money? But that's like a new
thing, though. It wasn't like that before COVID, and some of these stores still kept it that way.
Well,
I don't get.
There's a very good reason for that. What they did. Sorry, I'm doing like 4 things at once. What they did is, I think they just realized, and during COVID, it was a thing. Okay, we're going to limit the number of people in store. But I think what they did is they realized that having those lines outside of their stores at the mall was just creating more
like a buzz. Yeah.
So more people wanted in because more people were like, well, hey, maybe they have a new fucking item that I want to get my hands on.
Maybe, but I know that whenever you and I went into stores or malls and we're walking past, you know, for example, like Louis Vuitton, and I would see a line out the door, I would just, for me, it was not worth it. Like, I would just be like, okay, I'm not waiting in that line to go into a store.
Yeah, and my thing was...
You want my business. You want me to spend thousands of dollars
exactly
on your product, and you're going to make me wait in line for 20, 30 minutes. Why?
That was my thing. To me, it was like, hey, fuck you. I'm not waiting to give you money. You know, it's like there are other stores that are begging you to walk in, and these people are acting like they're too good for your money. Well, then you don't need it.
Yeah.
If you're acting like you're too good.
Still, yeah.
But my point is if you're acting like you're too good for me, or you're too good to take my money because I got to wait in line to give you money, well, then why the hell should I?
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Right.
And obviously it's a very LA thing. LA, I mean, obviously LA, Miami, New York, the big cities, right?
I mean, we even went to Las Vegas and came across these stores with long lines. So, you know.
Well, but then again, Vegas is also one of these places where people have money and they're willing to spend money. So it's not like it's not a foreign concept for people to drop insane amounts of money when they're going to Vegas, because you're also attracting probably some of the wealthiest people from all around the world. You know?
I mean, I don't know if the same standard went into the stores in like New York or Florida, but here especially, it was all like that with the lines and the herds of people that just wanted to get in there and to buy stuff.
But that's the thing, is because they created this illusion. Okay, another perfect example of this, Rimowa luggage. We have a friend that's not going to be happy about this, but it's okay. Rimowa luggage, outside of their steel or their metal, aluminum, whatever, their metal luggages, right? If you look at their plastic luggage that they have, it's a fucking Samsonite.
Yeah.
But it's 5 times the price.
Well, you're paying for the name.
But again, it's this illusion of luxury. Like,
exactly.
I guarantee you.
Do people even realize it's a Rimowa though? That's what I wonder.
I don't think so. I really don't think so.
I wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
But so realistically, if you look at it, they're probably made in the same factory in China.
Probably.
Or the Philippines or India or Bangladesh or Pakistan. Yeah. I mean, that's where everything's made, right?
Maybe. Yeah.
I can't imagine that there's tons of factories out there like making luggage. Like, this is not a huge thing for them to be like, hey, we're going to make luggage all day long. But right along that same thing, it's like, what are they doing differently? What is it? Is it the store? Is it the layout? Or is it just that they got something and they slapped an absurd price tag on it and everybody said, I have to have it now? Maybe,
but honestly, I hadn't heard of them since like a few years ago. I had no idea what Rimowa was. They kind of just popped up. I mean, I don't remember ever seeing them anywhere.
So... yeah, but that's the thing, is I got to wonder what they did to create themselves as a luxury brand. Because I genuinely feel like you could take any item and slap a huge price tag on it and create a fancy store with fancy lights and well-dressed sales associates and call them sales associates instead of, you know, just...
So apparently Rimowa is very popular in Germany. It came out of Germany. Back in late 1800s.
Okay, so it's that old of a brand.
They've been around for a long time.
Okay.
And they're made in Germany. So.
Okay, so they're German made, which.
Yeah.
I don't know if that justifies a 5x price tag.
No, I don't really care where it's made. I don't think that justifies paying thousands of dollars for something that's going to be thrown around.
Well, that was what I was going to say. Is it's literally something that some minimum wage worker at the airport is going to throw around, scuff up, dent, fucking step on, and then some, you know, what, so that the bellhop can think that you're rich. Like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like, we're so obsessed with people's opinions of us that it's literally driving people into poverty. Like, you have people that are more, and hey, our people are the perfect example of this. You have people that literally live in an apartment but refuse to drive anything less than a Mercedes because I need to be exclusive or I need to show off or whatever the case is. Like, I understand you want the luxury items, but you got to get the priorities right. You can't go from not having anything to all of a sudden you're buying luxury items and struggling to pay for them just to have those luxury items.
I mean, I don't think having cars like that is an issue. Well, wherever you live, but like there's a certain, seeing like Bentleys and things like that come out of apartments. Well, it's different. Priorities might not be there. Or people who live with their families and who, in like a 1-bedroom and have cars like that. It doesn't make sense, but again, to each their own. But
to each their own, absolutely
doesn't make sense to me. Again, priorities, but
I just think it's kind of weird that instead of, for example, paying $1,000, $1,500 a month for a car, instead of doing that these people may be able to save a little bit of money for whatever they may need in the future to buy a home.
Well, maybe, again, maybe that's just their enjoyment. Maybe they don't want to buy a house. Maybe they don't want to do anything else with their money except drive nice cars and buy nice things. I mean,
I get that. But if you're going, so for example, you're a guy in his mid-20s, you're going out somewhere, you pull up in the fucking $150,000 S-Class or whatever. You're hitting on some girls or whatever you're doing, right? You're going to take them back home to your mom's apartment? You know what I mean? Like, it's just...
You just don't take them home.
Ultimately, why else are you showing off? Ultimately, why else are you springing on the expensive car, on the fancy brand name clothes?
Yeah, I think it's the feeling that people get knowing that people are looking at them in a certain way. I think it's the perception they give off.
Okay, that's probably right.
And that in turn makes them feel better about themselves, even if it's all a facade.
I think you're right about that. But at the same time, it's like, why are we as a society, anybody?
I think
why do we put so much importance on that?
I think it's just an LA thing, honestly. I don't know if it's so much of another place kind of thing. Because we've been to other states and it's not really like that.
So, okay. Yeah. When we had gone to the East Coast of Virginia. Mm-hmm. So at one point I was in Virginia for, I think, almost 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. I think I saw one Mercedes.
Yeah. It's different.
Everybody just drives Chevys, Fords, Toyotas, whatever. Like, yeah, there's a couple, like there's luxury car dealers and it's obviously people own these cars, but they're Sunday cars. They're not their everyday cars. We have in LA, I mean, some parts of the city, you can go on any given day of the week and it's a freaking luxury car show. Mm-hmm. You've got high-end Mercedes, BMW, you've got Rolls-Royce, Bentley, like
Range Rovers,
Ferrari, Lamborghini, it's almost
Audi,
nothing.
Like everything.
It's like, I remember when I was young, if you saw a Ferrari on the street, you're like, oh shit, there's a Ferrari. Now it's like, oh yeah, I don't like that color because they're so commonplace.
They are, and they're readily available to people here in LA.
They're everywhere.
A lot of people are already driving them, so it's too common.
It's too common. That's my point.
We're used to it now, but I think there's still a type of perception in there, and the way people perceive these individuals that drive these nice cars. Drive these nice cars and see these people wearing the nice purses, the clothes, and it's just kind of this like persona that you give off. It just makes them feel like they're important, maybe, and that they're in a really good place in their life, and that somehow justifies them spending that much money, even if they don't have it.
But see, that's my point. Is what I was going to say is it gives off that perception that they're in a good place. But what if they're not? What's the point of all that?
It's
that facade is going to fall.
I know, but it's the way they feel, and if they want to feel happy in that moment and do whatever is right for them, then that's what they want.
I guess to each their own. To me, I've just never given a shit what anybody thinks about me. It's like, if you like me, you like me. If you hate me, then fuck off. I don't care. Like, I don't need everybody's
I don't think it's necessarily... I think you're more so relating that to personality. This is not really related to personality. It's more of how you look on the outside. And...
Yeah, I never gave a shit.
Honestly, in a lot of times...
Never given a shit about that one.
What I've realized is people seeing people who give off that they have money are more intimidating looking than those who don't look like they do.
So maybe that's where I have that disconnect, because I've never been intimidated by anybody that has money. Like, I've been around people that have money my whole life.
Well, you've been around a lot of wealthy people. I've been around a lot of wealthy executives. So we're used to
it. To me, they're just
these people
and people.
Working with them and having our day-to-days intertwined with them. So we're used to seeing these people, but a lot of people aren't. They're not interacting with these folks all the time. Right? So to them it's, oh my gosh, this person has money. Let me I'm just shy. They're so intimidating, And again, this doesn't go for everyone. This is just an opinion that I have.
No, and I respect that. I just think it's it's weird that, and especially in LA where everybody has money, it's like, are you looking for validation? Are you trying to gain respect? Or are you just trying to fit in?
Or maybe they just like it. I mean,
yeah, but that's the thing is, you can look at any luxury brand, whether it's, and I'm guilty of watches, whether it's watches, purses, whatever. If you're looking for a design of something, every brand has a knockoff. Mm-hmm. And it's not, it doesn't have to be a fake per se, but it's another cheaper brand that makes a very similar or almost the same exact design. Mm-hmm. So if you're after the design, there's options for that without spending the big bucks.
But now that you bring that up, why do you like designer watches? Not designer as in
I don't like designer.
Gucci or
no, I like watches,
like the Rolexes and the IWCs and the Piguets and all that,
so
Audemars and all that stuff.
It has nothing to do with the cost or the brand. Mm-hmm. It has everything to do with the workmanship of the watch.
Okay,
it has to do with the movement of the watch, because there's something so beautiful about all these pieces, these intricately fucking tiny pieces, these gears, these springs, these screws that you can almost not see with your naked eye because they're so fucking tiny.
See, that's something that you're passionate about, right?
But this is the harmony of 1,000 fucking pieces working together to tell time accurately. That is beautiful. Mm-hmm. There's something beautiful about that. Now, are there cheaper mechanical watches? Yes. But that's the problem, is a cheaper mechanical watch is also not, it doesn't have that craftsmanship. Mm-hmm. So you can buy, a cheapy fucking knockoff mechanical or automatic watch, and you can buy a Rolex. But the difference is it's like driving a fucking 1993 Geo Metro versus getting behind the wheel of a Ferrari.
So right. So I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here. So that is something that can also, can be relatable to other luxury items. So, you go to certain stores that are affordable to buy clothing. Mm-hmm. And then there are luxury stores that you can go to and buy their clothing. Mm-hmm. Granted, some of them are ridiculous looking, but there are some that are so classy and beautifully finished. You have Chanel, you have Dior, you have other brands that.
Also, just for clarification, we're not talking shit about any specific brand, so don't come after us, Gucci, or anybody else. But yeah, continue. Sorry.
Their apparel, their items, they have a lot of classy, beautiful pieces. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that you can necessarily find those.
You can.
The quality is very different.
But here's my point there's a difference between a design and the usability of the item. Like, cloth is cloth at the end of the day. A sweatshirt is a sweatshirt. Leather is leather for the most part. Obviously, there's different grades and different thicknesses and whatever of leather.
Okay.
But you can get a $1,500 bag that performs, meaning that the utility of it does the same thing as a $50 bag or a $10,000 bag. So it's like, yeah, you can get the middle of the line. You don't have to go for the $20,000 bag. Or you can get something that, if your budget only allows, you can get a $100 bag that's going to perform the same way.
But you don't think the craftsmanship in the more expensive purse or bag is different than the one that's $50?
Very slightly. I don't think it's that.
You don't think that it might last longer?
It's gonna last longer because people are gonna take better care of it because it's more expensive item.
I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree only because, speaking from experience, I'm guilty of it. I love designer purses. I do.
The truth comes out. The truth comes out.
I do. That's like my vice. I love designer purses, and I have a few, and I didn't always have designer purses. I didn't grow up having designer purses. I had to work for it.
Yeah.
But just comparing what I had before, I still use the shit out of my purses. I don't care whether they're luxury or whether they're not luxury. I will use the shit out of them. I don't care. Like, to me, it's like, I bought this, I'm going to use it.
That's the point of paying the money.
Exactly. Like, I'm not the kind of person I'm just going to put this away and only use it for like certain occasions. I'm not that kind of person. I will use it. And just comparing, the regular brands versus luxury brands, my luxury brand purses, and again, I've used the heck out of them, have lasted me so much longer than regular purses. They have. And and as an adult, I put them through a lot more.
Well, and I think what I said earlier was a little incorrect. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think the $50 purse is going to perform the same as the $3,000 purse, but I think like a $200 or $300 purse would.
Depends. It really, I've had enough experience to compare those.
I'm not saying every single one.
I know. But just in my opinion, with my experience with them, I think that the ones that are a little bit more expensive are going to outperform the ones that are not.
Okay, fair enough.
As much.
But I mean, the difference I don't think is always worth it to somebody who can't afford it.
No, of course.
You know what I mean? Like,
of course. So I don't ever want to go into debt buying things that I can't afford.
So, for example, if somebody can afford let's go back to the car analogy. If somebody could comfortably afford a BMW M5, which is maybe a $110,000 car.
Okay.
The performance difference between that car and, say, I don't know, a Rolls Royce, or probably not Rolls Royce, but a Bentley something or another, right? Something that has a little bit of power or whatever. The performance is not going to be that huge of a gap to where you're like, oh, my BMW sucks balls. I have to step this up. You know what I mean? Like, it gets comparable. Once you start getting to the upper range of things start getting comparable. Like, I can drive a Toyota and it'll get me around. It's the $50 purse. But at the same time, if I step up to the $100,000 BMW, I'm obviously going to notice a performance difference.
Of course.
That's the maybe $300-$400 purse, $200 purse, whatever it is. But it's still like, for me in my position, and obviously everybody's different. If you have the fucking money, blow it. Then why not? Yeah, just do it. But for me, it's not going to make sense for me to spend every dime I got to go buy a fucking Bugatti or something. You know what I mean? Like, to barely afford the payments on a Bugatti, right. I'm not going to go and spend every dime I have. Same thing for somebody that could comfortably afford a $50 purse or $100 purse. They're not going to go and put themselves into debt to go, well, let me back that up. They might to go buy a Birkin.
I don't recommend that, but yes.
Don't recommend it, but I'm sure it's happened. It's my point is that I think people put too much of an emphasis on the luxury brands and the illusion of luxury.
That's all that it is, honestly.
Because, listen, one of the richest people in the world is the guy that heads up the brand that owns, or the company that owns all these brands, because their profit margin is fucking insane.
Right.
I mean, there's a reason they give you a $15 box when you buy a purse, because they could afford it. That's nothing. It's a drop in the bucket.
And people keep these boxes. They're like novelties. They keep them.
I've been to
display
home.
them.
I've literally been to somebody's house where his closet, the shelves in his closet, top to bottom, were just nothing but Hermes boxes.
I'm just like, but it's just a box.
It's a box.
I mean, maybe I just think of these things differently. I'm very lucky to have been able to buy the things that I've purchased. I think now that I'm a little bit older, I think twice about the things that I buy and if it's worth it for me to spend money on certain things. And again, if you have it, go for it.
Well, as we get older,
I just don't put that much of an emphasis on luxury items anymore. Although I still do love them,
Well, and here's my point is, like, if, for example, tomorrow I fell into a bunch of money, I won the fucking lottery tomorrow, I got $300 million in the bank, I'm going to spend that money to enjoy luxury items, because at that point, it's not a big deal anymore. Like if I have a couple $100 million in the bank, spending spending $10,000 on a purse for you, or spending whatever $50,000 on a watch for me. Sorry, my watch is more expensive, but
they always are.
They always are. It's not like it's not a big deal anymore. But there's a lot of people that will struggle just to be able to buy the luxury brand, which is like, why are you doing that? Why are you putting yourself through that just to own this one piece of luxury brand, like this luxury brand?
But then the question is, even if you have that kind of money, why did someone's beliefs change? If they think that these products are not worth it and the craftsmanship isn't that different, why buy them even if you do have money?
Well, so in my case, I wouldn't go out and start buying Gucci t-shirts because that's just ridiculous. I'd probably buy like 1 or 2 watches, maybe get myself a slightly nicer car. That's about it. But that's only because those are items that I actually would enjoy, and now I can.
Right.
But there are people that you put them in that same position, they're going to go out and they're going to buy fucking a whole wardrobe of Gucci and Celine and Dior and whatever. And it's like, well, do you really need a $400 t-shirt? Because that's just stupid. I would literally I would be wearing $50 jeans and a $15 t-shirt because it's like, it does the same thing.
And I'd rather just be comfortable. A lot of the wealthiest people dress like that.
Well, because they don't need the attention. Yeah. The more money you have, the less attention you want. It's like it's a counterintuitive, but it's like this balance of like, when you have less money, when you have a little bit of money, when you first start getting money, right? You got to show off that, hey, I got money. So you got to go out and you got to buy the expensive shit. You got to go buy the flashy stuff. But then once you start getting up to the point where you're like, you're the richest guy in the room, it doesn't fucking matter what anybody thinks.
You don't care anymore.
You're the richest guy in the room. Who gives a shit what anybody thinks about you? At that point, it's like, if somebody wants to come and talk shit about the fact that you're wearing New Balance shoes, who cares?
Who cares, exactly?
Who gives a fuck? You can buy and sell that person. It's like, who gives a fuck? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, people put an insane amount of importance on luxury brands and items. And I'm like, it's
I wonder, growing up when I was younger, I never really noticed it. I wonder what the trajectory of that was. Like, is it a cultural thing, especially for us? But is it that prominent in other cultures,
I think it's more location based.
Maybe, because I don't remember growing up. I don't remember adults carrying luxury purses or wearing luxury items. Maybe it's because of where we grew up, but
it's also social media.
Yeah,
it's a lot. Social media does a lot. How many people have, they're scrolling their favorite influencer, whoever it might be, is all of a sudden showing off their new purse or whatever, and they're like, oh, I gotta have one. They don't know why they have to have one, but they have to have one.
Yeah. I mean, granted, yes, I have been guilty of doing that, but it wasn't like a luxury item. It was that like faux like Santa Gucci sweater.
But
champagne on it. That one of my favorite influencers on TikTok was wearing, and I was like, oh my god, this is so cute. So,
but the point is like that was not an expensive item. That was like a $40, $50 sweater, whatever, $60, whatever the fuck it was. But then you have people that will like, they're so latched onto influencers that it's like,
this is the new coolest thing, so I must have it.
Yeah.
And I kind of fell into that as a kid, but it wasn't like $1,000 items, It was like,
but I think
like
that's
teenage stuff.
So, but I think that's kind of what the progression was. Is you had these people that were on the internet, that whether it was like, start off YouTube, MySpace, whatever. As they started becoming more in your face, once you started getting Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, and it was a daily, you would see them multiple times a day sometimes, right? And you started using more social media, or not you, but people.
Yeah.
Those items became more in your face, and those people became more part of your life. And you're seeing this person who might be traveling to different parts of the country or the world and buying luxury brand stuff, and you're like, I want this person's life. So what do? Is you do the one part that you can. You might not be able to travel first class to fucking Dubai, but you might be able to go down the street and buy the Louis Vuitton purse and $3,000, put it on a fucking credit card, whatever.
Feel like you resonate with that person.
Exactly.
Right. I mean,
I think that's a negative side of like social media and all that. But I don't recall luxury brands being a big thing, more like 20, 30 years ago. I think it's more of a recent development.
Right.
And then you also have people rapping about brands and singing about brands, and it's like,
I'm sure they're getting paid for that too. So
they probably are. They're probably getting paid for the name drop,
So, for me, it's not, I'm not really envious of people who have stuff, like who have luxury stuff.
Yeah.
I think, if I had the, if I had the amount of money that these certain people have, I think I'd be more concerned about traveling where I wanted to versus buying stuff.
Well, and this is one thing that a lot of people don't understand either is that a lot of these influencers, once they get to a certain point, they don't have to buy this stuff. The brands come to them. They get brand deals.
Yep.
So they might get a fucking Hermes bag in the mail that it's just like, oh yeah, show this off. Do your unboxing video or whatever the case is.
I'm sure they get paid for it too. I mean, do you remember?
Well, even if you don't get paid for it.
Do you remember our flowers for our wedding?
Yes.
So the company that we used for our wedding at that time, they weren't that well known. I'm not going to drop the name of the company, but they weren't that well known. And
don't drop the name of the celebrity either.
I'm not going to say which one. A very famous sister.
That doesn't give it away.
That is on social media and everything else. She posted a photo of a flower that this company had sent her, and she had posted about it. And mind you, at this point, our wedding was just over. When we had family and friends call this certain, florist, their prices had gone up double after this person had posted about them. Double. So to the company, it's like, well, if this is a great deal for them, right? I'm going to pay the celebrity however much money. They're going to promote it. And everyone's going to flock because these people are so famous and everyone wants to be like them.
Of course.
So it justifies me doubling the price of whatever I'm selling.
Having access to celebrities is a huge thing. Like, most people don't realize that anytime a celebrity posts about anything, it's usually a paid ad.
Of course.
But outside of like celebrities, for example, when you have influencers, right? And whether it doesn't have to be a huge influencer, it doesn't have to be somebody with millions of followers. It could be somebody that has, 20, 30,000 followers. To them, what's going on is the brand is saying, the brand's not even paying them. The brand is saying, hey, we'll send you X, Y, and Z from our line, and we want you to promote it, show it in your videos, whatever the case is. So this 20, 30,000 follower influencer is not, they don't care about the money at that point. They're like, oh shit, this brand is about to send me something that's worth $5,000 or 10
Unless
grand
you're
or
like
whatever.
a really big influencer.
Yeah, if you're huge, if you have millions of followers, then yeah, you can start making demands. You're like, no, bitch, I want fucking 100K on top.
Right.
But for the smaller ones, for the ones that are just getting into brand deals, they're more than happy to just get that brand. And just if anybody out there is in that position, just be aware that if a brand is sending you stuff, you will be 1099 for that, and you will be responsible for the tax bill of that brand.
Glad you're throwing that one in there.
Just this is just my free advice, because I actually saw a TikTok video where somebody was crying, talking about how some brand sent her, I think it was like $65,000 worth of stuff.
Wow.
And she was like, they sent me a tax bill for this $65,000 worth of stuff. Well, obviously you can write some of it off if your video production costs, whatever your costs are to promote that item, but still you're going to be on the hook for the taxes. That's going to be considered income. You're going to be on the hook for those taxes.
Yep.
And people don't realize that shit. But
don't forget.
That's the thing, is like they're so happy that this luxury brand is going to send them stuff that they're like, oh yeah, I must have this luxury brand. And if I could get it for free, even better.
Well, it's not technically for free.
It's not. Well, but here's the funny thing too, is like, so if, for example, if Hermes wouldn't, but if Hermes said, hey, we're going to send you this $35,000 fucking Birkin bag, right? The fact is that you're going to get billed for $35,000 because that's the value of the item. Hermes is only out about maybe whatever their cost to make it.
Right.
And again, I don't know what their cost is, so don't come at me saying that I'm like, bullshitting their cost, but it might be $2,000, it might be $5,000, whatever it is, but they're out a lot less than that retail price that you're getting taxed for. So it's like this fucked up, like one-sided deal. You know what I mean? And it's in any situation, the brand wins. We are the pawns in their game.
And
like
we'll keep buying.
We'll keep buying because that influencer who is so happy to get the free bag is now parading it all over the internet, and everybody's like, I gotta have one too.
Exactly.
So I mean, it's
and that goes for any type of item, purses, apparel, jewelry. You know.
Well, and the funny thing is too is we don't have we all have this like perception of what luxury is, right? We all have this idea of luxury, and the crazy part of this is that you don't have a set bar. The bar is different for everybody. So the bar for somebody who lives in poverty, right, who lives below the poverty level, to them, luxury might just be being able to buy new clothes.
That's very true.
Like, so, okay, the reason I know this is because I've been to homes where I'm like, I couldn't even imagine. Like, in my wildest dreams, did I not think that I would have an entire fucking spa in my house with the ceiling of my spa being the bottom of my pool? Like, that is insane.
Right, and to them, that's luxury.
To them, that's the luxury that they want to live in. To me, that was never even a fucking concept.
Right.
Like, that was never a thought. But, you know, we live in different worlds. And it's the same thing for your average people that, you know, your average LA person. And I'm going to say average LA because average LA is a lot different than average anywhere else in the world or most places in the country. Your average LA person lives in a different world than the poor people that live below the poverty line in the rest of this country. And to them, luxury might just be able to get, like I'm saying, new clothes, to be able to buy groceries when they need it.
Or an iced coffee.
Yeah, that's going to be a luxury to them. But even more than that is you have people who literally, their luxury is being able to afford the food that they want.
Or to be able to go to the supermarket and not even look at the prices.
I think that's a luxury for everybody these days because the shit is fucked up at the supermarket.
Not to look at the prices of eggs.
What, $20 a carton? Where was that? That was somewhere down the street.
Corner market around the corner.
Yeah, so the point is that luxury is different for everybody. Unfortunately, we do live in a world where there's this huge disparity where you have people who are struggling to be able to afford food. But then you also have people who are on social media and their concept of luxury is, I want that $40,000 bag. That $40,000 bag might be that $40,000 might be more than somebody's entire annual salary.
Of course. Yeah.
And I think the big takeaway from this is that we all need to be appreciative of what we have.
Absolutely.
Stop looking at what social media is trying to teach us because fucking shit is poison. And
I've heard, you know, a quote that I've heard that I like is comparison is the thief of joy. You know, never compare yourself to others because you're just not going to be happy.
Well, and that's the thing is at the end of the day, it's buy what you can when you can. Don't put yourself out. Don't struggle to be able to keep up with others.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like you might have wealthy friends or you might have friends who are even just a little bit better off than you. And at the end of the day, you don't want to necessarily compare yourself to them because they are in a different, they're living in a different world. They're living in a world where they can do all the things that they want to do. And the reason that they're buying the expensive stuff is because it's easy for them. And
everyone has certain issues. You know, one person might have more money and the other person might have more, I don't know, family or love or something else in their life that isn't comparable to having money, and it's just different situationally. It's different for everyone.
Absolutely. I mean, it's also like, you know, I've spoken to people who are like, you know, they got sick, whatever issues they had, and they've literally said that they would trade every single dime that they had to be healthy, and it's like, you know, because you can't buy health.
Nope.
So it's like, you know, people need to stop being so materialistic. I think the world would be a better place for it if, for example, you know, you have people that have so much fucking money where it's insanity. I mean, it's like, So I read something while I was scrolling TikTok, and somebody had posted this thing that was like a Reddit quote or a Reddit post, and I did the math myself, and it checks out.
Okay.
If you made $5,000 an hour,
okay,
$5,000 an hour, which is a lot of fucking money, a lot of fucking money, every single hour, 24 hours a day, every single day of the week, every day of the year, for the last 5,000 years, that sum would come out to $216 billion. That's still half.
Which is less than...
That's half of Elon Musk's net worth.
That is insane.
5,000 years of 24 hours a day toiling. 5,000 years. We're talking from fucking ancient Egypt.
I can't even I can't even comprehend that. I can't.
So this is my point, is that there's a huge disparity.
Yeah.
Obviously, some people, like to Elon Musk, buying $100 million yacht is probably like nothing. I mean, it's probably like us buying a can of tuna. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like when you have that much money, when you have so many zeros in your net worth that buying another asset barely makes the number look different. You can't compare that to anybody.
No, of course.
And the funny thing is you look at him, how humble does he look? He dresses fucking normal as shit. He's walking around in t-shirts. Mm-hmm. He's, he'll wear a suit when he has to, but it's like most of the time he's just hanging out. Like he's just chilling. Mm-hmm. He's laid back. Yeah. And if you were to put that kind of money in the hands of somebody who was newly rich, right? And I'm sure he did some stupid shit when maybe he didn't actually. I think he was actually smart about his money. I think that's why he has so much. But if you took that kind of money and you gave access to that kind of money to somebody today, the average person, they would just start spending. They would start spending like it's a disease. They would start buying islands and planes and fucking crazy shit. They would start trying to buy countries.
I mean, everyone is different, but you'd always have the urges to do things like that for sure.
Well, yeah, you would want to. But at the end of the day, I think that's what separates the people that actually get wealthy from the people that will stay poor. Mm-hmm. You give an insane amount of money to people who are destined to stay poor because they have the wrong mentality. The first thing they'll do is spend it on luxury brands because they have to look rich.
Right.
Versus you give that money to somebody who has a wealthy mentality, and that person will take that money, reinvest it into a company, maybe invest it into some kind of like stocks or whatever
and just make more money.
And just use that money to make more money. Mm-hmm. This is the big difference. The people that are after the luxury items are typically the people that will stay poor.
Maybe.
I'm not saying there's so many people yelling at me right now going, what the fuck are you talking? I'm not saying that that's the case for everybody. I'm saying that for people that in this imaginary scenario, you take $100K and you put it in somebody's hand. The person that goes out and starts spending it on shit, on stuff, clothes, shoes, whatever, cars, those people will never make it. Because no matter what amount of money you put in their hands, those people will constantly spend it. Mm-hmm. But if you take that $100,000 and you put it in somebody's hand and that person says, I'm going to go on vacation and I'm going to spend 3,000 of it, and the rest of this money I'm going to make some wise investments with, that person will make it.
Yeah.
Even though they have that want, even though they have that, like, I'm going to treat myself, they will eventually make it because they're thinking along the right path.
Yeah.
And that's just off the get-go. That's off of I just got a bunch of money that I didn't deserve. Mm-hmm. Imagine once they start actually earning and once they actually work hard for that money. That's a different mentality. You can't take how many people have come into money who have gotten broke?
A lot.
There's an entire show, or there was, on
the
TLC.
Lotto winners or something.
Yeah. About the how the lottery made me broke. Mm-hmm. These people came into money and the first thing they did was start spending on luxury stuff, like bullshit luxuries. Whether it was like, I'm going to buy myself a new car, or I'm going to buy myself a new wardrobe, or whatever it is. And they literally ended up going broke because they spent themselves into oblivion. And maybe that's, I don't know, maybe that's just the whole point of the lottery, is that the government running the lottery they know that eventually most people are just going to spend the shit out of it, put it back into the economy, and we taxed half of it anyway, so who gives a fuck, right? Give these people money. But it's kind of it's a sad analogy for how obsessed people are with luxury, is that they're willing to wipe themselves out even after coming into millions of dollars, just for people to say, oh, that person's rich now. I can see that.
Yeah.
I don't need anybody to validate that I'm rich. If I'm rich, I'm rich. That's all I need is my knowledge of it, my comfort.
Well, not a lot of people have that mentality, so.
Yeah. I guess the point here is like maybe give me the millions because I'll probably make better decisions with it. I don't know.
Sure, I'll be happy with that.
I probably wouldn't actually. If I came into, and I think it depends on the amount. If I came into $10 million, I'd probably spend a little bit of it. I'd probably right off the bat spend. I think, but that's the thing is I wouldn't spend it on something stupid. I'd spend it on a house.
Yeah.
And a house in LA is only going to appreciate. So, we luckily live in a place where anything we spend for housing is going to appreciate in value, or it's going to at least hold its value. If I came into $100 million, I'd get a little stupid. I'd buy the luxury cars. If you come into $100 million, I mean, come on, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wouldn't get crazy with it. I'm not going to go buy a jet because I could. For the few times that I'm going to use it, I'd rather just charter a jet. Even if I want to be frivolous, I'd rather charter a jet than have to pay for the hangar and the pilots and the maintenance and all that shit. It's like,
it's not worth it.
It's not worth it. But people are for some reason obsessed with like, well, I got to show off. I have a jet.
Again, perception.
Perception. It's all fucking perception. People are so worried about looks, about perception, about what people think. I truly don't get it. Yeah. I truly don't get it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it
is what it is.
It is what it is, but I guess this is why all the luxury brands exist. It's funny because you see these brands popping up every so often too, where you're like, that brand wasn't here 2 weeks ago, and all they did was set themselves up in that same luxury look, right? Through a fat price tag on what they're selling.
Yep.
And they're doing well.
Yep.
It comes down to if it looks exclusive, then it must be, then people are willing to pay the money.
And if people are promoting it and who's promoting it. And
well, that's the other thing I've always wondered is like, like luxury brands that you all of a sudden hear about. And, it's always like, oh yeah, well, this has been big in Europe for 15 years. Well, first of all, I don't give a fuck what's big in Europe. just gonna throw it out there. But second of all, it's funny because it's usually that brand was featured in some kind of, like, it was a magazine that, whether it's like a fashion magazine or something like that brand gets featured, somebody mentions it, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, everybody has to have it. It's almost, I mean, who knows, these magazine brands are probably just running some kind of like an insider mafia, but you know what I mean? It's like if that same brand, for example, if that brand makes the same quality of goods as another brand, but that other brand doesn't get featured in the magazine, that other brand dies off. So it's kind of like this like inside game of who are we promoting next?
It's a race.
It's a race. It's a rat race. It's a rat race of the wealthy.
Exactly.
We'll leave it at that. It's a rat race of the wealthy.
All right. Till next time.
Yeah. Till next time. If you enjoyed this episode, please
like, share, follow,
comment. Tell us we suck. Also, if you want to buy ad space, we can your name here, your face here, whatever. Yeah. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.